Ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching.
Boom, ping, ping, ping.
Ay.
This political cartoon is authored by Antonio Branco, a Republican political cartoonist that aims to further the conservative movement by voicing controversial opinions that Republicans are wary of sharing with the radical left. Within the cartoon, Branco promotes the Republican ideals he believes in, but he also adopts the persona or representation of the Republican Party entirely. The cartoon is a commentary on the 2017 recovery of the American economy that Republicans have attributed to Trump's economic policies. Branco satirizes how the middle class prospering within Trump's economic boom is a direct smear on Democrats, the majority of Obama's supporters, that criticize Trump's administration and exalt the Obama administration, more specifically their economic policies, but broadly their values as leaders and Americans. Branco embraces the right-wing persona to compel the audience, the American population of a diversified political stances, to not only support the conservative movement, but to deter political morale for liberals under Trump's administration. Branco utilizes the economic values of the middle class to undermine Obama's credibility, uplift Trump's credibility, and endorse the conservative agenda. By demonstrating that Trump's economic policies are a virtue to the middle class and a pie in the face to Democrats, Branco creates an air of credibility around Trump, but falsehood around Obama's economic policies. The image expresses a mocking tone but thrives off a bully palette that Branco embraces. He mocks Democrats to relay his conservative agenda to the audience and to further vilify those who wrongly vilify Trump for his tactics. The visual is effective as Branco's perception of Trump is subjective depending on what demographic the cartoon reaches. It is either compelling to a more conservative individual or angering to a more liberal individual. In both scenarios, the cartoon evokes emotion within the audience. In the next political cartoon, conservative political cartoonist Gary Varvel depicts how Trump's attempt to centralize industry within the U.S. by targeting foreign traders with tariffs have backfired upon farmers, many of them his own constituents. Trump has instituted tariffs on goods importing into the U.S., negatively affecting the international trading partners. These trading partners have retaliated by levying taxes on American goods. These tariffs targeted at industries with a dominating majority of Trump constituents. Varvel, a devout evangelist and Republican, becomes representative of the inter-party dissent against Trump's administration. He adopts a critical and mocking tone of Trump's policies as they have put his own constituents at risk of sacrificing their businesses. As a Republican, critical of his party's representative and the President of the United States, Varvel aims to inform the Republicans and Democrats alike of Trump's impotence in navigating foreign affairs as a presidential Robin Hood. Through the phrase, "Oops, let me get you a Band-Aid," Trump's incompetence and unengaged disposition in quelling the international trade war are shown to be moot. Varvel attempts to discredit Trump's activity in the international trade war by appealing to the empathetic nature of people as the cartoon addresses the livelihood of farmers affected by Trump's tariff. The cartoon depicts how Trump has aimed his efforts to combat the retaliatory tariffs other nations have imposed upon American industries, but in the process, he has actually put the livelihood of people, his own constituents.
Why do you think Barack Obama wasn't in the Oval Office on 9/11?
That I don't know. We'd like to get to the bottom of that.
At risk. The visual is effective in mocking and berating Trump's policies in foreign affairs, both appealing to Trump's very own supporters and his critics. Political cartoonist Nick Anderson, an editor for work portraying the liberal viewpoints, satirizes that Donald Trump's promise to both work for the people and economically benefit the corporations threatening to outsource their workforce. Anderson emanates not a persona but an idea. He represents a sect of Americans that consider Trump's stimulus package to be corrupt and deceptive of his intentions to benefit corporate America, not the working class. Anderson represents this idea by using a mocking tone to address Trump's engagement with corporate America behind the back of American workers. This cartoon based on the 2016 controversy wherein Trump, as a means to centralize manufacturing in the U.S. and to compel corporations from moving their operations overseas, proposes a stimulus package that incentivizes these corporations to stop outsourcing labor by offering tax breaks. Visually, Trump claims to be working for the people. However, behind their back, Trump is benefiting corporate America as a stimulus package for corporations reduces corporate taxes and regulations. Trump elusively conceals his true intentions by claiming he is trying to create more jobs for the working class. Yet defense analysts say that Trump's propositions to incentivize private enterprises and possibly punish them with increased taxes is highly illegal. Thus, the cartoon begs the question, who is Trump deceiving? The working class or corporate America. Anderson pushes the more liberal perception of Trump's stimulus package by addressing the American population not partisanly but based on economic interests. In the cartoon, Anderson appeals to the values of American workers and the emotions of people empathetic to American workers as their livelihood is at stake, thus coalescing into an attempt to discredit Trump's policies instead of his presidency entirely. This political cartoon is effective as it creates debate as to what Trump's motives are. Is he creating more jobs for Americans, or is he creating more opportunities to accumulate wealth and create a greater wealth disparity by giving corporations tax breaks?
In this political cartoon by Egberto Willis, an active political liberal, demonstrates how the U.S. economy is constantly being destroyed by Republicans. In his political cartoon, he takes on a different persona, modeling Parrish, the liberal cartoonist who creates the original work. Willie does adopt the perspective of Parrish to further the extent of demonizing the Republican Party and to establish the idea how Republicans capitalize on the wrecked economy for their political agenda, in turn forcing Democrats have to fix this broken economy after Republicans destroy it. The cartoon depicts Willis' critical view of the Republicans in 2012 after President Bush had left the economy in shambles, and how President Obama had to fix it. He depicts this by showing how Republicans do not consider the stability of the economy, while also showing how they undermine the idea of reality in order to gain political power. Willie relates to the idea of Republicans destroying the economy to the working class and Republicans themselves by showing the destruction of the economy relates to everybody, not exclusively to one group or one political party. Tying the American public, Republican neglect of the economy, and Willie's liberal stances together, painting a bad image on Republicans as a whole. He uses the phrase, "Never mind the mess we made, here's our winning political strategy," to stress the lack of care that the Republicans have for the economy and exposes his interpretation of how Republicans capitalize on the economic fault they created to gain power. Willis appeals to the emotions of the working class as they are affected by economic instability and appeals to partisan values as this cartoon jabs at the Republican Party to discredit its image. The overall effectiveness of this political cartoon can be interpreted in many different ways. Because he is liberal, he is biased, and discredits Republicans, causing a stir of emotions from both the Democratic and Republican parties. And this political cartoon by Rob Rogers attacks national, local, and international problems through his political cartoons. In this political cartoon, Rogers is critical of the U.S. economy and the wealth gap between the supposed two classes, the rich and the poor. The wealth distribution being economically detrimental for the lower class makes a gap between the poor and the rich, ultimately eliminating the middle class. Rogers' persona does not change, rather he introduces his perspective on how the economy is set up so the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Rogers creates a critical tone of wealth distribution within America, as his perception of the rich always prosper in comparison to the poor. Through the cartoon, Rogers represents the perspective of people in opposition to the oppressive nature of the upper class over Rogers' interpretation of the poor. As a speaker, he establishes a platform from which the American public, including the rich and the poor, can either contradict or agree upon Americans' perpetuation of the uneven wealth distribution throughout the economy between the wealthy and the lower class. He draws a connection between wealth disparity and the American people by describing how the economy is viewed and how it affects the wealthy and the lower class. This cartoon relays the notion of uneven wealth distribution by appealing to the emotions of people in poverty, those who empathize for the impoverished, and by appealing to their moral values and creating a more egalitarian society. The image is an effective use of rhetoric strategy as it gets the idea of the economy solely benefiting the rich and can apply to any audience, stirring various emotions about the status of the economy. And this political cartoon by Drew Shinman, who is a liberal activist, depicts Republicans trying to protect themselves from debt through tax cuts and shows how Republicans are prone to using tax cuts to protect themselves from the growing national debt. Shinman creates political liberal cartoons that portray Republicans as ignorant and selfish through a mocking and critical tone. In this cartoon, he shows how the Republicans are selfish and ignorant by trying to instill the idea of staying to take on a storm of debt, knowing it would destroy the U.S. economy. The cartoon implies the Republicans ignorantly think that tax cuts will be enough to stop the debt, and in turn show how the Republicans treat the economy. Shinman establishes the rhetorical situation by drawing a connection to the working class and the Republican use of tax cuts to evade the debt. Shinman makes it clear as to what society believes about the Republican use of tax cuts to stop the debt and creates a mutual connection between society and himself, establishing a common ground between American citizens and Republican tax evasions. He creates a logical and emotional appeal in his cartoon by the Republicans refusing to evacuate despite a massive storm approaching, showing how they intentionally destroy the economy despite being warned by others, and establishes a public outcry for the people as they are going to be affected by Republicans' decisions. The text and the color scheme are both important because they stress the idea of the Republicans being manipulative of the economy because of their wealth-driven views. The video is effective in allegorically satirizing the idea of Republicans trying to protect themselves from the oncoming storm of debt, while compelling the audience to think more reflectively on what the cartoon means for partisan dynamics in the economy.